leaking Delta Faucet. And what usually goes is the cartridge inside here, and there's two types of cartridges. So usually center is to shut it off. Well, because this is worn and needs to be replaced, sometimes you can move it up here and do the wiggle method and to shut it off so it doesn't keep dripping here. I've already shut the water off. So, but first thing to replace this is to get the right cartridge. So this one is the right cartridge for my particular sink. Yours may be slightly different. They actually, for this particular model, they actually have two types of cartridges, which is really annoying because before I started this project, I went to the Home Depot and got a cartridge that I thought would fit. Once I opened this up, I found it was the wrong cartridge, so I had to return it. So make sure you check if you have a particular model, if you still have the paperwork on your cartridge or on your faucet, fantastic. If you do not, you may have to open this up and see what cartridge you have, and then obviously put it back together and then get the right one. So my cartridge is this one right here, as you can see in the screen. So this is leaking, so we'll replace this whole cartridge. So I've done this before, but you do need an Allen wrench to remove. And I don't know what size this is, but if you have a Allen assortment of Allen hex keys, that will work well. And then to take that little plug off, just a little screwdriver or your fingernails, and then a set of channel locks. These are not channel locks, these are an off-brand, or you can use an adjustable wrench. And then I have a old rag, and then of course good old distilled vinegar, and that's just going to wipe everything clean. So that's what we will start with. So first, I've already shut off the water, and you will shut off the water. And basically what I like to do when I shut off the water is count how many revolutions I did and back that out. So this was 1.5. It was out 1.5 times. So, and then here's the other shut off. And you want to shut these off, and then obviously once you're down here is examine these, make sure they look okay, make sure there's no corrosion, and you just want to do a regular check. Now, because I've replaced this before, I replaced this in 2014, so I tacked on the back of my cabinet, I tacked a log of what was replaced, all the different sizes, and etc. So I have a sheet. And then I even have, I'll pull out this sheet here, and I have this for everything I work on in the house. You don't need to do this, but I find it very helpful. So it's just a sheet I typed up and put in a nice little plastic folder. And then I have it I wrote down 1.5 turns open. And then it started leaking in December. I've put up with it for 5 months. My wife was like, okay, we got to replace this, or we got to fix this. So this is all what I did to this in 2014. The next service, it's a 10-year faucet, is 2024. Well, that's what they recommend. Obviously it's not, it's 3 years sooner. So we're going to replace the cartridge. So that's my documentation. And then of course we've shut off the shut-off valves. And I've also, what they don't, I put a little light for my kitchen sink underneath. This is a little fluorescent light. I think it's a 24-inch, and it plugs in. And it's very handy to help you, obviously that's off, to help you under your kitchen sink because they never have enough lighting. So I thought that was very handy, and then I just routed it. There's an outlet. So that's that. So let's go ahead and put that away. And so I've already unloosened this, already taken the plug off. So basically we will just find the right size. And I've already unloosened this beforehand, but we will just unscrew it, obviously as you've seen here. And this should pull out, and basically the inside of that sticks onto this, I want to say joystick or lever. There's a better view of it there. And it just sticks on and it flat when you go to reinstall it. So we'll put that to the side, and we'll also wipe down with our, this is a vinegar soaked rag, and I'm just gonna, and it works really well to clean up all the corrosion and such. So I always use this process for cleaning. It's vinegar, so it's not going to hurt anything. And if you have really a lot of buildup, then you may want to reseal this. But this looks pretty good here. So I've already unloosened this, but this should only be, this beauty cap should only be hand tight. So we'll go ahead and unscrew it. And then I always check the threads, make sure they're okay, and then make sure there's no cracks or it's not broken or damaged. And then of course clean it up with your vinegar. Now this nut here, you can use an adjustable wrench, so that's why we brought our channel locks here. And just be very gentle, because these channel locks can easily scuff and mar this nut. I've already unloosened this, but an adjustable wrench would be a lot more preferred, or the correct size of wrench. I don't know what size this is, but just be careful so you don't scratch it all the way up, because you'll need to replace this. So we'll just unscrew it like we're doing here. And then there's a nice rubber seal or O-ring, and this should come all out like that. So we're going to wipe that down with our vinegar, and we're just going to put this aside. See, this is our cartridge here. Put that aside, and then we're going to look and examine that for any corrosion or any mineral deposits, and that looks pretty good. The orange or brown is because we have copper pipes. I also examine the threads as well, and then I'll just wipe this down and clean it up with my vinegar rag to help dissolve any deposits. And I've already done this before, so I've already opened this up and cleaned this a few months ago, because I was getting ready to replace this cartridge, but I didn't have the right one, so I've already cleaned it ahead of time. But it's just a good idea to clean it up. And I'm wearing gloves. You don't have to, because we're working with vinegar. It's not very, you know, it's earth friendly, and it works really well, and it's cheap, so I use vinegar for a lot of things. So yeah, that looks pretty good. You can shine a little light in there, and I'm holding the camera here. That looks really good. There's no mineral buildup. There's no hard water, obviously mineral. There's no broken pieces. Everything looks good. This inside, there's no scratches. So now we'll go back to the unit that we just pulled out here. And so obviously we see a little bit of buildup here, but we'll just rub that with a rag. So as you can see there, that's all copper. These copper pipes. And we clean that all up. And then also note, I forgot to mention this, but obviously the sinks, the basins are both clean. But I went ahead and put the stopper in both sides. Forgot to mention that beforehand. Make sure you do that. And then I put a rag over it so I don't have any parts, because I don't want to go fishing down there. And I put a rag here, so just don't have any loose miss any loose parts. So we're gonna go ahead and clean this here. And we'll inspect the O-ring. Our kit didn't come with a new O-ring, but this looks pretty good. And I'll just wipe this down with the vinegar here, the vinegar soaked rag. So yeah, I've already cleaned this up ahead of time. But here's the cartridge, and it just pushes out just like that. So we're just going to replace this whole unit. I'm sure you can rebuild these, but I'm not going to rebuild it. But it's going to go like this, the orientation. So we'd got our new one and make sure it matches. Like I said, I've already done this before and I've already been down this route, but if you don't have the model of your particular kitchen faucet, you may have to take it apart to figure out which one you have. You probably won't need to, well, yeah, you might have to turn the water off too. On a personal rant, just wish they made these frustration-free packing a little easier. Obviously I had to cut that, but I don't see why they need to seal it like it's going to be 100 years from now, but whatever. So this is the old one. Actually compare. And this is the new one. New one, old one. Obviously the old one, you can see a little bit of, and here's the new one. So we're going to put it in just like that. I'm going to put the cap over it. And so basically each outline will cover each of those areas. So obviously the bottom center matches up there, and then they all match up, because you don't want it like this, you want it straight like that. You will have to hold it, and it should fit into place. So you may have to hold this as you're turning the cap here. Doesn't look super straight, but see, I'm just doing this by hand. It doesn't really need a lot of, and then as far as you can get it with your hand, and then maybe a quarter turn with the wrench. So we'll bring the wrench in here. And again, you don't want to scratch this up. You don't really want to be too tight on this, because get a good bite on it. And you want to be gentle. If you want, you could put a rag or something over here just so you don't scratch up the threads. Maybe a half a turn. Make sure that moving that to make sure it works. Make sure it moves freely. Obviously that's hot, cold. Stop. And then we just replace that with, obviously that stem goes inside that sleeve. We need to put the beauty ring on first. And again, just hand tight. It doesn't need to be very tight, because it's just plastic. There we go. side. And then of course, now what I'm going to do, actually I'm going to take this out. I'm going to put a little bit of thread locker on that nut. So I'm going to take that nut out, that screw out, that set screw, and put some thread locker on it. So here's the little set screw. And good old Permatex thread locker, the blue stuff. Blue is medium strength. You don't want the red on this because the red kind of glues it in and the red is too aggressive. I love this stuff. So I kind of shake it up first if I haven't used it for a while. And then I just coat the threads with a nice healthy coating. Absolutely love this stuff. There we go. Put this on my, cabinet knobs, hinges, you name it. I put it on everything. And I'm obviously going to probably end up wiping some of it off, and then we screw this back in here. Obviously we don't want to screw it all the way in, just want to get it started, and then once we get it on the stem we can tighten it. There we go. And then of course we tighten it. Again, you don't have to tighten this very tight, just snug. And you want to make sure, obviously 2 hands, one's to hold this and one to hold the wrench. Okay, it looks straight, and I would say maybe 5 foot-pounds. You can definitely look it up. And then this little plug just plugs in. And make sure you get cold on the right, hot on the left. And then make sure this moves freely. There's going to be a little bit of resistance, but just normal resistance. And make sure this moves back to the hot, to the cold. Make sure everything moves freely. And then we're going to turn the water on slowly to make sure there's no leaks. And it was 1.5 turns. Okay, this time you can remove the rag. Now, moment of truth. Let's see if it works. We don't see any leaks. The water's fully on. That's cold. Return. I need to push that in just a little bit. And that's hot, and you're going to have a little bit of air that you heard because there was. And when we turn center and we're off, and then cold left, right, center off. And of course now we can remove our plugs. Remove our plugs from the other side. And so we are solid. It's no longer leaking. It returns center. And then obviously too, you can wipe this down and this is actually a good time to clean this little strainer. So I'm going to put the plugs back in so I don't lose any parts. And then this little strainer, just hand tight. Just unscrew it. Just like that. I noticed there's a little bit of deposit there. And sometimes this gets clogged up. We'll move it over here. Sometimes the little screen gets clogged up. Hard water There's some hard water. Even though we do have a filter, it looks pretty good. I'll just clean it with a rag of, I'll just clean the outside with my my vinegar soaked rag. And these do push out. You can see a little bit of buildup. The threads look decent. And this doesn't look clogged. Usually if you have hard water, you're going to see this to get clogged with bits of mineral deposits. But overall this looks pretty good. This is your aerator. Obviously you want a nice flow. So yeah, this looks good. Obviously you can replace these if you need to. But I don't see any buildup. I don't see any mineral buildup. If you do have excessive mineral buildup, you can gently hit this on the counter and knock the pieces out, or you can soak this in a little glass of vinegar. But I don't see any issues, or you can replace this as well. This is your little aerator. So yeah, this looks really good. This is 6 years old. So I'm just going to go ahead and clean this up here with my vinegar rag and then put it back together. So yeah, there's still a little bit of buildup. I could scrape that off with a plastic putty knife. I'm not too concerned about it. But the threads look good. I put it back together, it just snaps in. And then of course it just screws in here. And also too, it's a good idea to run a rag, a clean rag around here, just to see if there's anything caught, any pieces caught. You just clean it up. And we'll just screw this back in here. Make sure you get it started. And just hand tight, you know, I mean, just enough. You don't need to put a wrench on it. Well, let's go ahead and remove our stoppers. So it's a cold water, and it's stopped. And then hot water, and then it returned back to center, which is off. So this used to leak, and before we would have to wiggle it right here to get it to stop. Well, obviously we would just replace this. So that's that. Put everything away, and we are good. Thanks again for watching. I forgot to mention, go ahead, and if you do keep track, I'm updating my record keeping, today's date, what I did, and the part number. And this little sleeve will go underneath the sink to give me records of what was replaced, what sizes, and this particular model, so it's the Delta Faucet 400 DST. But there's two different types of cartridges. So you may have to open yours up first to see what kind you have. But I bought the wrong one, and so then I had to get the right one, which was kind of annoying because I was all ready to do this. But so I'm going to include this, and I'm going to put this back underneath the sink so I know what was done when.